Oh my gosh, what are we doing? I don't know. Hey everyone, this is Travis Licata, and I am back with another Whiny Parent podcast, and I am covering Survivor Season 40. Um, this past week's episode was episode 7. Um, a bit of a tough out for Yule. Definitely crushed to see him go. He was playing for such an amazing cause, and uh, so that was definitely a tough leave at the end of the show. I hope everyone is doing well. I know everyone is in their own way trying to take care of each other and their families and essentially being isolated at home with this pandemic that's going on. So I hope everyone is doing well. If you are listening to me ramble, thank you. I'm going to go over a very brief draft update, my 3 highlights from the show, and a prediction for next week. So let's just get right into it. Draft update. There weren't any points scored this week. Megan and I both tied with players having the same number of confessionals. So Megan is still leading 4 points to my 1 point. Just a reminder, Megan's team is anything you can do, I can do better. And her players are Yule, Wendell, Kim, Ben, Sophie, Ethan, Nick, Sandra, and Adam. My team, my wife is right, is uh, Jeremy, Tyson, Michelle, Boston Rob, Parvati, Billionaire Natalie, Amber, Denise, Tony, and Sarah. So still stuck there at 4 points to 1. There's nothing really much more to add to that. So I will go straight into highlights. And my first highlight, I think, is just Sophie is absolutely crushing these challenges, and in particular the puzzles. I think the one challenge her team lost on was the one. Is it the one she wasn't on? Where it was Adam and Sarah instead of her and Adam. Um, so Sophie just she's done so well this season. I'm really happy about that. She seems to be in an amazing spot with her, Sarah, and I'm guessing Ben over Adam. And plus, she does have original to call alliances. Though after Yule is now going home or to Edge of Extinction, it's going to be. I'm really looking forward to hearing her confessionals on what she thinks of Wendell and Nick taking out her original number one. I mean, you remember early in the season, her reaction to Yule wanting to work with her. I mean, that was priceless. That was great. That's, I think, what many of us would have felt like if Yule said, "Hey, let's work together," you know? So I think seeing Sophie's reaction in front of them and behind the scenes in the confessionals is going to be really important to whether or not she can still work with them long term. But I do think that Nick and Wendell parting ways with Yule could make Sophie appreciate appreciate Kim's move earlier where she shared her half idol with Sophie. Sophie already said that she understood the difficulty of making that kind of a decision after she had to share hers with Sarah. So perhaps that initial spark with Kim reaching out to Sophie, maybe that helps Sophie have an additional out where she could go with Kim, Denise, Jeremy, and also Jeremy possibly reconnecting with Michelle. So I feel like Sophie has quite a few options moving forward. Um, and again, Yule going home stinks. Um, is it truly a like this whole idea of new school versus old school? Is it just simply the fact that the major threats were primarily old school, and it's simply that's the easiest thing to handle right now, where it's like, oh, that makes the most sense. They had the biggest targets with that quote unquote old school, and there's nothing more to it, or is there seriously an alliance of new school members tearing apart the old school? I don't know, but this specific move, I think, will lead us to one way or another know if it's truly old school versus new school, or if it's just happened to be that, hey, old school had more bigger threats. Highlight number two, I'm going to jump to Jeremy, Denise, Kim, and Tony make it to the merge by 1 second. They're the second team that wins immunity in the challenge. And it was right down to the last second. And what I've read online, I believe Wendell commented on how it was actually as close as it appeared on TV. Um, I'm really hoping that this Jeremy, Denise, Kim group can make a run. So I hope Sophie like teams up with Kim, and I hope Jeremy reconnects with Michelle because I think that would make an incredible final five. And I think Tony being part of that group, making it to merge, I feel like a lot of people are happy about that. I mean, this episode, it's just it's one of those things where who knows what would have happened. But you see at the beginning of the episode, he's running sprints down the beach, so um, that group seems to be pretty tight. Obviously, I think Tony's on the outside of that group, so we'll see what happens once the merge hits. Okay, my third highlight. I think it's a simple fact that Michelle wasn't even an option at Tribal Council. At least that's what it showed on TV. And whether or not Yul and Wendell went after each other or not, it's clear that both Yul and Nick were upset at Wendell during the challenge. Um, so there was some splintering there. But that being said, Michelle was the easy vote, and being the easy vote, and the fact that Michelle's not even at a target at all. I mean, the credit has to go to Michelle. Her ability to communicate with each person one on one, like there are moments where it seemed like Wendell was a little bit abrasive, but she just kind of I think there are other players in other seasons who would have had a much more volatile reaction, which would have blown up her game completely. Her seemingly calm demeanor, I think, is been such an asset for her because she's willing to have these conversations with the players, and there is some type of connection there where they don't want to get rid of Michelle. They feel like she's with them, and I think that's very key to her lasting further in the game. So I think all of my highlights are kind of revolving around players I'm maybe hoping to see win this season, just because I feel like maybe there's some of my more favorite players. Michelle, I wouldn't have maybe said that at the beginning of the season, but all of the preseason coverage and how hard her win was makes me really appreciate that. All of the you know backlash that she received from people online through social media. It's just so in that effect, with that happening and learning that on the backside, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna root for her. Sure, let's. She shouldn't have to prove herself anymore. Whether or not I believe she should have won her season is irrelevant. I hate the fact that that's the response, and essentially, when you win, you win. Um, so uh, let's move on to prediction. With the merge coming up, I'm happy to say I have no freaking clue what's going to happen next week. Not like I have a clue, anyways, but I'm looking forward to see what happens. I'm assuming a player is coming back into the game, right? Um, I mean, the highlight for next week was the merge, but they didn't show any type of challenge. I think with the players coming back, but I think the chatter is that they're coming back this week, this coming week. So, and if a player is coming back this week, I would have to lean toward either Natalie, Tyson, Boston Rob coming back in. Natalie hasn't had much airtime over the past few weeks. So for me, is it producers wanting to take advantage of having Tyson and Rob on Edge of Extinction and just try to get as many of their confessionals in as possible? Or is it because they're trying to ramp up one of their returns? So if I have to make a pick, I'll go with Natalie. I'll say Natalie's coming back in the game. Um, it's hard to know how much of the exhaustion level of her continuous, since she's the first player voted out, if that will have an effect. But she has 3 or 4 fire tokens. Rob has 3 fire tokens, so it'll be interesting to see how Natalie and Rob use those during the challenge to get back in the game. And I think I'm gonna pick Natalie because I think there have been a lot of first in Survivor history recently, and wouldn't it be crazy for the first person voted out to still have a chance to win the game? So that's what I'll say. As far as who's getting voted out, oh geez, haven't had any notes on this. Usually I have a list of notes of what I'm gonna chat about while I'm sitting here rambling. So I didn't make any notes of that. So um, if I had to make a guess, I will say um, last week I picked Tony. The week before that I picked Adam. Um, I'll say Tony again. I think it's my first back to back having the same players. Um, just because I'm probably wrong because I think Jeremy likes him as a shield. Um, but that's who I'll go with just because I have no other idea, and I'll just stick with last week's pick because he's going to be possibly a pick target at the merge because people would be worried about him finding an idol. Um, okay, so I'm not going to blabber anymore. That's it for me this week. For anyone listening, thank you for taking time out of your day to listen. I'm hoping this provides a brief break from the insanity that is our world right now. If you want to keep tabs on this podcast, you can head over to whinyparent.com to follow our blog. We have a dedicated page listed to a Whiny Parent podcast. So I have links for each of our coverage, which is Survivor, Fringe, and we have a new series that's Whiny Parent Talk, where basically kind of just parent vent chat thing. So the first episode of that's also up, and you can find us on YouTube as well, where you can follow. So if you head over to YouTube at Whiny Parent and subscribe, and you can check out all of our new content once it's uploaded. Okay, everyone. Definitely appreciate you listening. Thank you so much. Until next time, I will see everyone later. Okay.